So I'm hitting that button now. Yes, it started. Well, hi everyone. Thank you very much for your interest in the Bahamas Marine Ecotourism course for May 2021. Unfortunately, this course was canceled, just like many other things were last year, and I have 4 or 5 students from the 13 from the cohort last year that would still like to do it this year. So we are recruiting for 6 or 7 other students such as yourselves for the course. My name's Stuart Cottrell, and everybody calls me Stu. I'm a faculty in the Warner College of Natural Resources, and my particular teaching emphasis happens to be in tourism development, tourism management, in particular both at the undergraduate and the graduate level. And a lot of what I do is look at issues such as, can tourism play the role for a developmental context? Can it support that? And in essence, this particular class, which I developed in 2006, and also my wife helped develop the course, and I used to run it in a different location in the Bahamas, namely the Abacos, and I'd used 2 other different boats at that time, but Abacos were 2 years ago, as you may know, were sort of wiped out by Hurricane Dorian. And the boat that I previously had used was destroyed in that particular storm as well. So what is this course all about? And then I'll ask you about yourselves. It's a chance to use a boat, and in this case, it's what I call the funky cool vessel. I'll show you some pictures. It's 76 feet long, can accommodate roughly 30 people on board, but we don't want that for an educational type trip. So my group will be 11 students plus 2 faculty leaders, and we spend 8 days, parts of 8 days, 7 nights on that vessel, traveling from Nassau to the Exumas. This would be the first time we've done that with this course. I've been there before myself. And using that boat as our floating home. So secondary aspects of the trip is helping to make that boat go. What does that mean? Raising and lowering sails, anchoring, navigation, working with the captain and the admiral, who is the captain's wife. Her name is Sheila, who I'll introduce here momentarily. So that's kind of the essence of this trip. So it's entitled Marine Ecotourism, the Bahamas Encounter. So we encounter the Bahamas, and we look to see if, based on the parameters of, is tourism in the Bahamas working, and from what context, and how can the aspects of marine ecotourism, such as what we're supposedly going to be experiencing as a group, contribute to livelihoods and sustainability parameters that we learn about during the course there in that sector or that area of the Bahamas. But want to hear a little bit about you. So Lauren, maybe we'll start with you. Why are you interested in this course, and what's your major, and so forth?
I am a clinical psychology major. I am interested in the course because I love the environment. Every once in a while, when I question my degree choice, like all of us, I think about marine biology and ecology. So even though it's not what I'm majoring in, it's stuff that I'm really interested in and passionate about. So I was kind of curious more about it. I figured, why not look into it? Seems like it'd be pretty awesome. So yeah.
Well, great. Well, Lauren, let me react off your interest. I've had several psychologists take the course before. There's always part of the requirements is to do a project-based paper. And one of those students actually looked at the group dynamics, how experiential education plays a role in the evolution of connectedness again with people. And it was such an interesting project paper because she got into the innuendos of each person and their highs and their lows. And typically on this trip, everybody rides, it's really high, then we get to know each other. Then there's a little bit of dips, like my space, your space, you stink, your t-shirts, and then it kind of starts to peak again. And then at the end of the trip, it's a real high again. And it's interesting to watch that. So from that perspective, there might be some interesting attributes from the experience, let alone the biology and zoology and the sailing and navigation stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chloe, how about you?
I am a graduate student for meat science, and I always wanted to be a marine biologist, and then I found out that while on research trips, a lot of times what you eat is the fish you catch. I love fishing. I don't like eating fish. It's weird, and the only one in my family who's like that. But when I saw it, I was really interested in the course of kind of going back to like those roots and passions, and then as well as my dad, his dream was to sail around the world. And he hasn't done that, but he just started sailing, and so he's been going through certification. So we've been out on a couple smaller boats. Right now, we've been going out on a 38-foot sailboat just for a couple of hours, and they're looking into going down to the Sea of Cortez sometime and whatnot. So I'm interested in getting more experience of sailing and navigation, but also with kind of bringing like that again, like Lauren said, the passion with marine biology and learning more about other cultures.
Well, Chloe, I'll speak to our menu later, but there is a good chance we will be catching fish to supplement the meals on board. So you can choose to join in on that if you actually do the trip, but definitely all of the goals that your aspirations would be met at some level of detail on this particular trip. And also to what extent you really want to get into navigation and doing things to make the boat go, which there's some degree of requirement on that, but I don't force everybody always to be focused on things to making the boat go. So it sort of evolves into itself. Thank you. Rose, how about you?
Hi, so I am a horticulture major, and one of the reasons that I really want to do this is I took an oceanography class my first semester at CSU. I've always loved the ocean, which is ironic for being, born and raised in Colorado, which is just about the most landlocked state you can get. With like the horticulture and everything, one of my dreams is to do the horticultural professional internship in Florida at Disney World. So I'm really interested in like how all the plant life and the environment tie in with the tourism aspect and how that all kind of works together. Yeah. And I particularly love like ocean species of plants and everything, so I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, well, and that'll definitely be an opportunity for you because there's some succulents that can be used to put in your salads. I can't remember the particular name, but it's also interesting to look at invasive species and the native species and sort of that interplay, especially at the Exuma Land and Sea National Park that we'll be at, where we will hopefully be engaged in a conservation project that will have some of the plant identification and flora and fauna involved as well. So thank you, Rose.
Thank you.
Clara, how about you?
I'm Clara. I'm an apparel and merchandising major, which I know is totally unrelated, but study abroad and like travel in general has been it's just been one of my favorite things to do like my entire life. And I've wanted to study abroad, and I'm going to get to like later for my major, but I think doing it for something like totally out there and totally not something I've ever done before is so interesting. And like sailing is something that my dad and I have always been like super big on for no reason. We live in Colorado, but we recently started spending more time in Florida, and so this summer we're going to spend a lot of time like learning to sail together and eventually hopefully get a boat. But it's just like one of the most fascinating things to me, and then to get it and also get extra credits because I'm a transfer student and I need summer credits anyway.
Well, that's great to know, and to step out of your comfort zone and try something different. I have had a lot of business students on this trip, marketing and merchandising, and the project for some of them, it had been on developing marketing materials from my course in the past. So thank you for your interest. Skylar, how about you?
Hi, I'm Skylar. I'm majoring in fish, wildlife, and conservation biology with a concentration in fisheries. And I want to go on this study abroad because I really like corals and marine life, and I want to ultimately do research on them or study them. So, yeah.
Great. Well, this is, of course, a natural. I mean, I've had a lot of Warner College students fishing wildlife and conservation biology. So there's so many different issues that you can look at. Definitely, whether it's coral reef ecology that you're interested in, we'll see all kinds of different corals, both near shore and deeper level. And so, yeah, or maybe it's even the lionfish issue, which is big in the Bahamas. Yeah, so welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Ren, sorry, I may have pronounced your name incorrectly.
So it's Ryan, actually.
Ryan,
And,
okay.
So I'm an animal science major, and the reason that I really want to do this trip is because this may sound weird, but I've worked at a fish store for like the past like 3.5 years. And so I know like a whole bunch about like coral ecology, like all the fish, saltwater fish and freshwater. And I just really want to know how like they act in their natural habitat, because we get them imported. And so we see how they do in coral tanks and everything, but we never get to really see what they're like when they're really big and growing in like an actual ocean environment. So
Okay, great. Well, you know, Ryan, I have had many animal science students on this trip. Like for several years, there was one or two, and some of you even worked with the famous professor, Temple Grandin, before. So it'll be great to have you on the trip, especially with your interest in fisheries and fish species. One of the challenges in the Bahamas has been collectors coming over and taking exotic fish species and bringing them back to the U.S. and selling them in your store. No, just kidding. Welcome aboard. Christina, how about you?
Hi, I'm a natural resource tourism major, and so I really want to do this program because I know that once I graduate, I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it, but I want to be involved with like helping the environment while also showing people like how great the environment is and how great natural resources are, and kind of like combining those two together. And growing up in Colorado, I've seen like a lot of that happening firsthand, like in this type of environment in the Rocky Mountains, but never really like involving marine life or the ocean. So I feel like that would be a really great experience for me. And also I have a friend from the Bahamas, and everything she's told me about it has been incredible. So it'd be great to go.
Well, great. Well, thank you for your interest. And it's nice to hear we have a natural resource tourism student as well interested in the course. I usually have one or two. Originally, this course was designed for the Warner College, but since that was in the early years and there was interest from all over campus, which has made it much more eclectic. But we've always had 2 or 3 students that are from the natural resource tourism. So welcome aboard. Audrey, how about you?
Hi, I'm Audrey. So I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and I'm a bio major. So like I grew up near like the water, and I really miss it out here. I really miss the water. So I really would like to get back to the water, some hydration in there. But when so I'm a bio major, so I'm kind of planning on going into like maybe pre-vet sort of area, but I worked at a zoo back in Maryland, and I really worked with the South African black-footed penguins, and I really fell in love with them. But a lot of their big issues are like human impacts on them. So I think that like learning about like how humans impact the environment and how interconnected they are and how the locals like interact and how like people from outside kind of interact. I feel like that's really important for like learning the best ways to kind of conserve species in these sort of areas, is figuring out how like locals like fit into that equation. So I think it'd be really cool to like see how this works in the Bahamas and like see if I can apply that hopefully later in my life with the South African penguins. So
All right. Well, Audrey, thank you. Nice to hear your interest. There are so many different ways that this trip could meet those kind of interests with someone from biology or zoology and ecology and so forth. Speaking of Baltimore, I used to teach sailing out of Lighthouse Point in Baltimore Harbor, Fells Point area. There was a getaway sailing school there, and I worked for that. I mean, this is many years ago, and that sailing school is long gone. But yeah, well, welcome and thanks for your interest. I miss the water too, and that's a big reason why I run this trip. So, Lacey, how about you?
Hi there. My camera's broken. Sorry.
That's fine.
I am a costume design major for the theater program, and when I was in high school, I worked at an aquarium, and I also have my own reef tank with like live corals. And it's
Wow.
always been sort of my second passion. And when I was working at the aquarium, my favorite thing was giving talks and presentations to all of the guests at the aquarium about specific animals. And I just think teaching people about how important certain species are is just, it's one of my favorite things to do.
Great. Well, thanks, Lacey, for your interest. And I've had a graduate student who, because of the course, took other courses from me. She was a merchandising, really more in sustainability design and developing sustainability clothing. And she went on to do her PhD in that field, but she followed me to 2 or 3 other classes because she had such a great time on this Bahamas course in 2010, I believe. So welcome. Hadley, how about you?
Hi guys, sorry I'm driving, so I don't have a camera on right now. I had a class and it ran over time.
Just don't crash.
Yeah, right. I'm an equine science major. I'm a senior. I'm actually planning on graduating this summer, so this trip would really add for my global credits and my internship, which I'm super excited about. Also, I grew up teaching sailing. So I raced competitively in Cape Cod for years.
Okay.
Also, marine biology is just like I was on the fence. I'm going to vet school, so I was on the fence between marine biology and equine science, and so it'd be awesome.
Okay, well,
yeah.
Thanks, Hadley, for your interest. Please know that this is not a high-performance sailing vessel. It's almost like a fishing trawler with 2 masts on it. It's a gaff rig topsail schooner rig. So just so you know, but it looks like a really fun boat, and your background in sailing and so forth will definitely, it's definitely would be of interest to everybody.
I'm just excited to get on the water. Thank you.
Yeah. All righty. Did I miss anyone? Please speak up. I guess I need to keep my eye on time here too. I think we're doing okay. So I'm going to share my screen and go over a couple of things about this particular trip, and then I'll hand it over to Vanessa. Vanessa, but first, sorry, you want to introduce yourself, Vanessa? Sorry about that.
No worries, Stu. Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Vanessa Hayward. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I work in international programs, education abroad as a coordinator, helping students like yourselves realize their dream of going abroad. And so I'm really happy to facilitate this experience for you. And I kind of work in conjunction with Stu and with the folks he's been talking about on the sailing vessels. They're called 7 Seas charters, to make this experience one that will be once in a lifetime for sure. So I look forward to talking with you a little bit later. Back to you, Stu.
Thank you. Okay, let me share my screen. Can you all see this PowerPoint? Okay, great.
Yes.
I had something funky happen there. Let me put it on, now that's in the way. Instruction below. Okay, there we go. The dates are May 22nd to the 29th, 2021. I am, like I said, a professor in human dimensions and natural resources. That's a picture of the boat up in the right-hand corner. It is 3 credits. It's NRRT 321, and this will actually be the 15th time I've run this trip. The 3rd vessel. So I have not run the trip to the Exumas, which makes me extremely excited because there's no place on earth like the Exumas in the Bahamas. Where I used to go in the Abacos was probably one of the best places to go as a charter boat enthusiast. It's very safe there, a lot of the social cultural aspects. The Exumas is very thinly populated, so probably looking at a holistic paradigm of sustainability involving the planet, the the people and the economic aspect, it really kind of fits more the environmental context of sustainability much greater than the others because there's just not many people there. And we will be avoiding people because of COVID-19. This is where one sort of an easy map to look at, but everybody flies into Nassau, and on Saturday the 22nd, and after an orientation, we will leave and anchor somewhere in this region and then arrive on the second day, which would be Sunday, in the upper part of the Exumas and go as far south as the Exuma Land and Sea Park, which is down in this area. The Exumas continue on for another 50, 60 nautical miles, but this is as far as we'll go. That's all we can in a week's time. Beautiful shorelines, both on Exuma Sound and on the bank, Bahamas Bank. And I threw this picture in there because my wife and I sailed across the Little Bahama Bank, no, Grand Bahama Bank in 2017. The water on the bank is like 12 to 15 feet deep. It's crystal blue, and this looks like a blue seagull, right? That's the water and the sun shining blue on the bottom of this pure white seagull. It's just incredible, the clarity of the waters. Emerald seas in the Exumas like you won't believe. We'll snorkel and sail every day. We'll talk a lot about conservation, and we're looking at conservation and livelihoods and where tourism kind of fits into that context, and the parameters of what is ecotourism within a sustainability debate. We will see sharks, and we'll see all different types of fish species. That's the picture of the boat. Captain Bruce from Nassau and his wife Sheila, the Admiral as he refers to her, who's from South Carolina. They've been running youth education experiences every year for the last 20 plus years. Not every year on this boat, but I think they bought this one 2015, re-outfitted it, put some masts on it. And like I said, it's kind of like a former wooden fishing trawler that they've converted into an aux sail vessel. So that's Captain Bruce and Sheila. There is a bowsprit, so people can hang out on that. Just real quickly, sort of the accommodations. Since we do have a very extensive COVID-19 plan that's being actually presented to the international, from the Education Abroad Committee, Safety Committee, Risk Management focused. This is just shows the boat. So there's a forward cabin that sleeps 10. Only 5 students will be in that cabin. This middle compartment is where I will stay, and the second leader on the trip, but that is our reserve cabin for someone is showing symptoms of COVID-19. I would move out of there, and then that would be a self-isolation place where someone would have to stay. This is the aft cabin. It sleeps 5 or 6. We'll put no more than 3 in here. There's a toilet in each one of these compartments, and those are the toilets that we'd use. So if I take 11 students, that means that 3 students would have to sleep on deck. This is crew quarters here. So this is what the forward cabin looks like. They're doubles, so they're huge. So we would have 1 person here and 1 person down here. That would, in essence, put them relatively 6 feet apart, wearing masks down below. These curtains will go away because the owners of the boat, they do not wash those curtains every trip, and it's a hassle because they're in the Bahamas. Laundry's very inaccessible. So I've just asked that these curtains will be gone because very few people are down there anyway, and so it's not like you're hanging out and that kind of thing. So this is the other part of that forward cabin. So 1 would be here, and then 1 would be down here. This is the aft cabin, and so 1 person would be here. Across from here on the other side is a single, then there's 1 other bunk. So just ensuring that we've got down below, trying to be vacation in place is what we're sort of classified in. And once again, those privacy curtains would be taken down. The boat is air conditioned. There is a generator, a big engine, so we'll probably motor sail quite a bit. But what's nice about the boat, there's a lot of flat places. So we would take a place where the 3 students who don't have a bunk down below, and this is once my crew is selected and decided on, we start having weekly meetings. We would decide as a group who's going to do what, and or if there's a rotation system set for, so that those 3 sleeping on deck if they don't want to do that all week. But probably the challenge will be is everyone wants to sleep on deck because it's nice, stars are out. Usually May is a good time of the year, relatively good weather, not a lot of rain at night, but I can't promise that. This is the dining area, but that dining area we will not use for eating. So those 3 that have to sleep on deck, this will be the go-to place that they would go to sleep in and around these tables in case it rains, basically on the floor. The other end of the dining hall, this is the galley, the kitchen area, and we will have a rotating meal preparation. The meals are very good, anything from spaghetti, hamburgers, hot dog lunches, tuna fish, supplementing by sea life or fish that we catch, steaks one night, and our very last night back in Nassau Harbor, I'll be ordering pizza to be delivered to the boat while it's at anchor. Different members of the crew will rotate from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and cleaning up for that. And instead of doing family style serving to try to control any germ transmission, will be whoever's in the preparing that particular meal, they're the ones that will serve that. And as we're going through the food line, we'll be wearing masks. Temperatures will be taken each day, generally in the morning by myself. I'll be keeping a log of that, and then we'll have cleaning stations everywhere on the boat. What I like about Captain Bruce and Sheila is they seem to be very experienced with working with youth kinder group education. And, rules are important, but they also offer a degree of flexibility. In other words, letting people have fun as long as it's safe and follows the parameters of the safety protocol at sea. Things we'll do, of course, is helping to raise the anchor. It's a group effort, but of course here we would space out a lot more and pulling the anchor up each day. This is showing what it would be like with a group of 30. That's what I will always avoid on my trip because I don't want it to be so packed that we're crawling all over each other. And we definitely won't with myself, a second leader from the CSU, 11 students, and then there's Captain Bruce and his wife and 1 Bahamian crew who will be joining the trip. We will have deckside chats and reflection sessions each night. 2 members of the group will be designated as our crew leaders, and they will put together a schedule for our night watches, which start at 10 o'clock at night, 2-hour shifts, 2 people, and also to lead kind of a discussion right at sunset after we've cleaned up from dinner, kind of talk about what we've done the day and how it links into the different messages. So that's kind of everybody plays that role. I probably won't be having locals come aboard the boat like I normally do, just purely for our COVID safety plan. We will meet with 3 different folks working in conservation, 1 at the park, 1 dealing with the swimming pig issue, and at one of the major resorts, who will meet with us on the beach where we can wear masks and be safely separated versus having him or her come aboard the boat and join us for dinner. It's just something that we can't do this year on this particular trip because of COVID. We will be doing a conservation project. There's sort of 3 ways that students are evaluated. 1 is participation, involvement, and enthusiasm, being part of everything. We'll talk about that, kind of fitting in with CSU community of practice guidelines. The projects could be anything from developing a video for my trip, which I don't have since it's a new boat, new destination area, to doing a coral reef count, to a project that we'll do at the Land and Sea Park. All of these kinds of things we will develop as a group and during our preparation sessions that I'll talk about in just a minute. This is Highborne Key. This is a very exclusive resort. I was in here with my wife and I own a 50-foot classic sailboat from 1968. And when we were in there, and we have a beautiful boat, it's classic. People look at it and think, wow, God, what a gorgeous boat. In this marina, we were looked at like the hobos because there were multi-million-dollar yachts in this particular marina. That's why I'd like to go there and sometimes just the nurse sharks that are swimming off the dock, we may have a chance to have a very careful experience on swimming around and among the sharks. We will see. As long as no one's up there cleaning fish on the fish station and throwing guts and so forth and things in there. One way that I deal with inappropriate behavior is I feed you to the shark. No, just kidding. Vanessa, you're not laughing. I need to say that we do have these preparation sessions. Those will start in March. So once my group of 11 has been selected and they've committed to the program, I will send out an email to try to schedule a time where everybody can meet for an hour to an hour and a half once a week for 6 or 7 weeks. Our first session is getting to know each other, of course, and what's marine sustainable tourism. A session on marine ecology and coral reef ecology. We'll focus on pre-project proposals where people will say what they'd like to do, and then we'll go out and people come and share. We'll do work a little bit each week on the state of Colorado boating safety course. It's an 8-hour regular course, but it's all online now. And then you will have gone through a majority of that material during my sessions. And then if you want to get certified as a card carrier of having passed that course with the state of Colorado Parks and Wildlife, then you can log on and schedule. I think it's $25 to take that exam. Some students have done it, many have not, but we'll be covering that material. That's just some. Some other things that we've done is we've talked about, hurricanes and how to deal with that in island nations like the Bahama archipelago and other things that come up during that experience. So that schedule's not set yet. It's really dependent on who signs up for the group. I used to do it face-to-face on campus. There will be a Canvas support site where I'll put materials, and it might not be that we meet every week because it might be where you have this particular reading. I provide it all, so there's no books and materials that you have to buy. And I also do what is called reading light so that the expectations is not overwhelming to interfere with your regular spring semester. That's so if someone says, I just didn't have time to read that, but I will, then it's just the main thing is just communicating with me on how things are going. This is our basic itinerary. Saturday, day 1, people fly and arrive at 2 different times in Nassau, where I will have arranged a shuttle that takes only CSU students to 5 or 6 miles to the boat dockage location. Unfortunately, we won't be allowed to walk around in Nassau town proper because of COVID-19. Days 2 to 7, we're on the boat. And on day 5 or 6 of the trip, you'll be retested. And I think Vanessa's going to talk about what I mean by that with the Bahama travel visa. We're visiting all those different islands in Exumas that I talked about and much more. No, it's not a pleasure cruise. It's not like Semester at Sea. It's a working sailing journey involving teamwork, education, and safety and conservation and marine ecotourism. So we're probably busy 12 hours. I mean, I'm usually making the coffee at breakfast. Everyone's getting up by 7, putting their gear away, getting stored and being up on deck, and we're hopefully eating by 7:30. Some people get up with me and do swim around the boat at sunrise. And then we're busy till 10 o'clock at night. So you're putting in many, many hours of time on the particular trip and of course enjoying it. I've never had anyone go on this trip and say they didn't like it. It's usually the other way around, the exuberance. On the last evening, we will be anchored off in Nassau probably. That's where I'll have, so we don't have to cook and clean up, I'll have Bahamas pizza delivered. Maybe Bahama bread and so forth. And then that's where a couple of students play the role as photographers, and we generally have a closing session talking about the projects where students are and that kind of thing. And then we help clean up that boat when it comes to the dock on Saturday the 8th. And then we leave and go to the airport in the 2 shuttle system, again, to catch your flights. Now after that has happened, then I usually give students a month into the summer to finish their projects, and the projects take different forms with everybody. And I usually try to make it something of interest to them that's related to the trip, but might fit within their particular major area of study. Or for some, it's something completely different. But those are kinds of things that we'll talk about. So that's kind of the end of this particular slideshow. Oh, this is the woman who was the fashion designer who became a PhD student and so forth. So that's what I had with that. But I wanted to show you, before I turn it over to Vanessa, let me see if I can just bring that, maybe stop sharing here. Share again. Got this really cool map if I can find it. Oops. Can y'all see this map? No. Let me do that again. Share screen. There it is. Share. Can you see this map? Great, thank you, Vanessa. So here's Miami. We fly into Nassau. The first night we'll run down to this area. That's about a 5-hour run. If we're getting off the dock at too late, main thing is the boat can't run in the dark. We don't do scuba on the boat, just so you know. But on this particular aspect, kind of some of the highlights. I mean, this area is, there's a very famous Dutch, not famous, Dutch word called bijzonder, which I speak Dutch. I used to live in the Netherlands and teach there. This is Highborne Key. We'll experience all of these islands. Anywhere you see these pluses, that's coral reef. This is Exuma Sound, where right offshore it drops off to 2,000 feet or more. This is the Great Bahama Bank that averages 12, 14, 15 feet deep. But Norman's Key is where the downed drug lord plane is. We'll visit that. There was that Fry Festival that was supposed to happen a couple of years ago that turned out to be a financial disaster. That was somewhere around this island that didn't actually happen. It actually sort of occurred at, and I'll have the class actually watch that video. Actually, no, that's where that was supposed to have happened. The swimming pigs are way down here at Staniel Key. Anyway, looks like I may have passed it. I'm not sure. I may have gone too far, but there's a bunch of swimming pigs there. So yeah, I went too far. But that just kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at. So there's beautiful coral reefs on. What's great about the Exumas is if it's bad winds coming out off the sound from the west, we can get around on the Exuma Sound side, or vice versa, or get up into these cuts. So there's places to snorkel and swim everywhere. I mean, it's just, even where we're anchored from the boat, I mean, it's just incredible. We'll probably see Johnny Depp's island, one of the sustainability parameters, and I think that's it right there. But here's the Wadrick Wells National Park. There are these blowholes there. High tide, the waves are crashing in and blows up through the 40, 50 feet on top of the rocky shoreline above the ocean. So, I mean, it's just an incredible place. This is what I would call the Emerald Sea. It's called that, Emerald Bay. It's just incredible. So I think I've talked enough. Vanessa, should I allow some questions, or go ahead and turn it over to you?
Well, I have a few things that I want to cover. I'm probably going to need about 15 minutes, so we could do 4 minutes of questions. I know while things are fresh in people's mind, if they want to ask right now.
Yeah. Any questions?
When are you going to decide and let us know who you chose?
Okay. The application deadline is February 15th, so that's coming up. And so what that means is then Vanessa will open up those who've completed their applications, and that means that questionnaire thing, that means an essay and a recommendation at minimum, okay? then I go through and I look at that. Of course, priority goes to those with a 2.5 GPA, quality of the essay. Major is not a major aspect because it's really those. So if there's like 8 or 9 that have completed their applications and all the others have not, then of course those, it's the list of priority. Then an invitation sent out to those that have been accepted. I write my comments in there. I check on the references. And so I guess to answer your question, I would probably need a week or so to do that. So probably by the last week of February, those that have been selected will know. After that, then people go on a waiting list. I will say that if someone is expecting to, and I'll just be honest, because I had some people who wrote to me and said, well, if I don't get any support financially, then I can't go. That's almost telling me that that person is someone that I am not going to directly select, because if someone drops out in April or May, everyone suffers financially because the budget's built around 11 students. And so if I have one drop out, they lose money. The boat still has to be paid the money, and then we have to make it up. Either Study Abroad decides to cover it, or we approach all the students and say, which this happened one year, where I actually had 6 drop out, and that was a disaster. I managed to fill it. You know, so if you're really serious and you're selected, then you got to make that decision and commit and know 100% sure, unless you get sick or some unfortunate thing, because it puts the trip in jeopardy financially if someone drops out on it. Okay? Does that answer your question? Thank you. One more question? Go ahead, Vanessa.
I'm going to piggyback a little bit on that.
Yeah.
So Stu shared that probably within a week or so, he would know who he's going to accept. However, in Education Abroad, we don't want to accept you officially until we know that this program is going to run. So the program's still going through a review process. Stu mentioned that there'd be a meeting with the risk management team on Monday the 8th, this coming Monday. And if it passes through that process, then it also has to be approved by the Warner College of Natural Resources. And I'm a little unsure of how long that process will take with Warner College of Natural Resources. That's more outside of my hands. So we're not going to accept you to the program officially until we know that the program's going to run. And question, could I fly out of Baltimore? You can fly out of wherever you want, but you have to go to Nassau International Airport, and Stu or I will share the 2 shuttle times. So we're hoping that you'll be able to arrive around 2 different times that are, you know, an hour to 2 hours prior to the shuttle departure time.
Right. And what we're trying to avoid with that is people taking, because just a taxi ride of 5 miles it's actually 5 kilometers. It's like $30–40, and this way, by having a shuttle, one, we're the safety of us and not with other publics and so forth, and we're just controlling it. Usually students in the past have had to figure their own way to get to the boat and so forth. I will throw in there that if those that are going on this trip, that does not mean going to graduation parties. Sorry. So, because there's not enough time for the 10-day quarantine or self-isolation before the trip if you're going to graduation parties the weekend before. So just to throw that out there now as I'm talking. That's really important, and that was a big stipulation with the director of Education Abroad, because the Education Abroad was actually wanting me to push the trip back another week, but we couldn't because the boat is already booked all other weeks in the summer.
You know,
Okay,
I think
Vanessa.
if I share now, it might answer some questions, because I hear some of these questions are more kind of logistical. Stu did such a wonderful job explaining the academics, and I'm excited to go snorkeling. That all sounds like it's going to be beautiful. So let's take some time to just talk about the logistics and the application, and I think it might answer a lot of questions for you. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to walk you through just some websites. So if you have not, well, first somebody give me a thumbs up that they can see my screen. Okay, thanks Christina, thanks Stu. So this is the Education Abroad homepage. And if you haven't already applied to the program, or if you want to do a little bit more research on the program in addition to what Stu shared today, just simply go to program search in the top bar, and then you can type into program name, just type in marine or marine ecotourism. Either one will take you there. We can see the program here. And then all of our program websites are set up the same way. You're going to see 6 tabs across the top. So these gray words actually have content below them. So take a look. This will reinforce everything that Stu shared today. I do want to take a moment while we're here to talk about cost and funding. So you see the budget sheet is right here. And we try to be as transparent as possible about cost, because we know that finances are such a huge part of whether or not this program is a good fit for you. And like Stu shared earlier, especially this year, anybody who accepts and commits to the program is going to be financially liable to the program. So if you're accepted and then you commit and say, I want to do this, if you drop out, you still have to pay the billable subtotal, which is listed right here. So the billable subtotal are the items that are going to be charged to your CSU student account. And these items are typically assessed to your student account around May 10th. And they include the 3 credits of tuition. The courses run through CSU Online, which is great because it doesn't differentiate between resident or non-resident tuition. So everybody pays the same flat rate of $14.28. The program charge is the fees that go towards 7 Seas Charter, so everything on the boat. And that's going to include your ground transportation to and from Nassau International Airport to the dock, and everything going on the boat, your lectures, 3 meals a day, all that coffee, snorkeling, everything that's happening on the boat is covered. And your lectures, I said that. The education abroad fee at $400, this is something that every student pays at CSU when they go abroad for a 4-credit experience. And it's $400 when it's during a break or a summer term. So this is our lower amount at $400. The insurance, $28, it's required. You're going to be so happy that you have it if you need it. Hopefully you won't need it. And then the university technology fee at $25. Everybody pays this every semester that they take 1 or more credits at CSU. So again, this is the amount that gets assessed to your CSU student account once you commit to the program. And committing is a manual process through your My Ed Abroad application. You will actually select commit from the status, and then you're going to sign a financial contract that says you are financially making yourself liable to this program for this dollar amount once you commit. Below, we see estimated costs for other things that we anticipate you're going to have to pay for. So estimate about $800 for the airfare. You will have to purchase a $60 Bahama travel health visa. If you don't already have a passport, you want to apply for one right away. I hope actually everybody here has a passport, because processing passport times right now are 10 to 12 weeks. And we're kind of bumping up against that time frame with the departure date of this program. So don't delay if you don't already have a passport. Stu said that there would be no books required, so you won't have to pay anything for books. And then personal expenses is just whatever you want to buy personally in the airport, probably, because you're not going to be interfacing with anything else where you could spend money for the rest of the experience. So down below on this billing page, we see the billing timeline. It does say that the app fee of $50 and the deposit will be charged to your student account in February. I'm guessing that's probably going to be more like March, just because of the timeline of waiting for the program to be approved to travel before we accept you. And we only assess the application fee if you were accepted to the program. So if you applied and you completed your application and you're not accepted, you will not pay the application fee. The $200 deposit goes towards the program charge. And so it's kind of like a down payment. And then the rest of the billable subtotal will be assessed to your student account around mid-May, and then payment is due June 10th. Okay, that was my fast version of that. let's see. Next, I want to go over the program application. And so this is a simulation of what your My Ed Abroad page looks like and the things that are required for you to complete. So along the left-hand side, we see that there is an electronic recommendation. We ask that you have an academic recommendation from someone at CSU. That would be ideal. And that can be an academic advisor, and that could be an instructor or faculty member at CSU. Then you're going to sign this $50 application fee signature document. It's what I just explained to you earlier, but here it is in writing. You're going to complete these 3 questionnaires, acknowledging that you need a passport and you should apply for it ASAP, writing your essay for Stu to read, and then this acknowledgement and release. And then lastly, we want you to watch a video on paying for your education abroad experience. And so this application deadline, as Stu mentioned, is February 15th. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to make a decision on this program no later than March 15th. That is our kind of drop dead deadline for deciding on whether or not early summer programs can run. I'm looking at my notes because I want to make sure I don't miss anything for you. Okay, so let's talk about how you will pay for your program. So on our website, we've got some really helpful information on paying for education abroad. And we have a scholarship application. It's called the My Ed Abroad. Oh, hold on a second. Here we go. The scholarship application is called the Education Abroad Common Scholarship Application. So if you go to students and then go to financial aid and scholarships, you can see some stats and then watch our financial video. And then down here at scholarships, here's the link to the Education Abroad Scholarship Common Application. So our average amount for scholarships in the summer is about $250. So you'll see average amounts listed down below. So these scholarships aren't going to pay for the program. I want you to have a financial plan without scholarships. And then if you receive a scholarship, great. Then you get to kind of pay yourself back or know that this part of funding that you had set aside for the program, you now have a scholarship to cover that. Down below, we have affiliate scholarships, departmental scholarships, external scholarships. I encourage you to check these out either for this program or for any other education abroad program that you might be interested in. We also have a great relationship with the Office of Financial Aid. And so if you would like to set up an appointment to meet with our financial aid advisor for education abroad, just click on the schedule an appointment link. Her name is Cindy Maris, and she meets with students virtually, and she has time set up on Navigate. So you can set up that appointment online to meet with her. This is a summer education abroad program. So in order to receive financial aid for summer, you have to be taking at least 6 credits in summer. So bear that in mind because this is a 3-credit program. So you'd need to take at least another 3 credits to qualify for financial aid in the summer. And Cindy would be happy to talk with you about that. Okay. I want to talk about CSU's COVID precautions. So if you're accepted to the program, there will be a participant requirement for COVID-19 questionnaire that's located in your My Ed Abroad application in what we call the post-decision section. So once you're accepted, you'll see that questionnaire pop up. But I wanted you to know now what's going to be in that questionnaire because this might help you as you're making your decisions of whether or not this program is a good fit for you in the summer. So you'll need to agree to 2-week pre-departure self-isolation. We're going to ask that you bring multiple masks with you. We're going to ask that you regularly sanitize your hands, and there will be sanitization stations set up, and Stu will make sure that there's ample opportunity for sanitization while you're on the program. You're going to be required to take some COVID-19 tests. I'm going to talk about that more in detail in a little bit. You'll be expected to get the flu shot prior to departure if you haven't already received it this season. And that's to limit the likelihood that your symptoms, that if you present any symptoms, if you have the flu shot, then we are more likely to know that your symptoms might be COVID related. At least we know that they're not, ideally not flu related if you've gotten the flu shot. You'll have to participate in symptoms testing, which do mention daily temperature checks, and he'll be keeping a log. And then you'll have to self-isolate upon return in accordance with the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And you'll also have to enroll in CSU's insurance, which you already saw that on the budget, it's $28. So to get to the COVID testing, I want to share this website with you. You can see the URL right there. You'll all need, those of you who are accepted and commit to the program, will need to follow the guidance of this Bahamas travel health visa. So all committed students will be required to comply. You'll have to have a negative COVID test 5 days prior to travel. And then you'll have, and that's right here, that's step 1. And then step 2 is you'll have to apply for and pay the $60 for the Bahamas travel health visa. And then you also have to have a COVID test on day 5. And the ship will be coming into Highborne Key on day 5, which is 3 days prior to departure. That day 5 testing requirement is a requirement of the Bahamian government and also of the US federal government. That was put into effect in mid-January, that all US citizens who are abroad and return to the States need to have a negative COVID test in order to re-enter the States approximately 3 days prior to re-entry. Well, they say 3 days prior to re-entry. So we have it on the Wednesday because you'll be leaving on the Saturday. And that's exactly 3 days. And that's also what the Bahamian government wants you to do. So let's say that it's 5 days prior to departure and you're here on step 1 and you take your COVID test and you test positive. That is an unfortunate situation and you won't be able to participate in the program and you'll have to forfeit all program and travel costs. So if you are going to participate in this program, please follow COVID safety measures to the letter, to the T, and take good care of yourself so that you will hopefully not have a positive COVID test, because at that point it is too late to back out of the program and getting any of your funding back, or for us to put another student in your spot. And then when you have your test on day 5, the cost of that test is included in the Bahamian travel health visa. The cost of this test, the test 5 days prior to departure, is not covered. We are going to encourage you not to purchase any flights until you are officially accepted to the program. And there was a question earlier about when would be the earliest that I could depart the States. And we'll talk more about that as we get closer to kind of give some general guidelines around flight arrival times. And then based on your flight arrival time, you'll be able to back that up and figure out what time you should be leaving from wherever it is in the country that you're departing from. So there's not a group flight with this program. You're each purchasing your own individual flights if you commit to the program. I also wanted to share, I'm going to stop screen sharing at this point. That next week on the 10th of February, we are offering a Zoom session at 4 p.m. You would have received an email about it this week, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday, and it's a COVID question and answer session. So it's going to be run by our associate director. Her name is Amy Jones. She's super familiar with this program. She's been working with me and Stu on all the COVID safety precautions. So this would be a great time for you to come and chat with us. We're going to talk about CSU's decision timeline on deciding whether or not programs can run, proactive ways that you will be asked to mitigate your risks. And I kind of went through a whole bunch of those with that questionnaire. We'll talk about COVID-19 testing requirements, which we just talked about here, financial considerations, and then resources to help you make an informed decision about participation. So particularly if what I just shared feels overwhelming or makes you feel uncertain, coming to Wednesday's session at 4 p.m. on Zoom would be a really helpful way to help you make decisions and gather more information. And registration is required in advance for that Zoom session. Whew. I haven't spoken that fast in a long time. Y'all put me to the test. Thank you, Chloe, for that thumbs up. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking and see what kind of questions we have out there. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions. I'm gonna take a look at the chat. Stu, there's a question about, am I able to study abroad with a research assistantship? I believe it does not cover study abroad. Oh, I'm sorry, Chloe, you were direct messaging me. I'm just reading that
Oh,
out
no,
loud
that's
to
okay. I just
everybody.
didn't want to like crowd time since I figured it was going to take more time than just.
I'm going to copy your question and then you and I are going to chat offline, like via email or what have you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other
Anybody
questions
else?
from anyone?
I was wondering. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. You can go.
You go first.
Okay, sorry. I was wondering if, because I know that there's the passport question on the application. If we don't have a passport yet, will that like affect the decision about acceptance or not?
Boy, I don't know how long it's, I guess I've never actually looked at that on past applications. Maybe at this particular point, I should. I don't know how long it takes to get a passport. Do you, Vanessa?
Yeah, it's taking 10 to 12 weeks currently. So as I shared earlier, we're butting right up against that timeline. So it's February 5th. Your program departs in 14 weeks. I think that's right. So it would make me nervous if I didn't already have a passport right now. So I think it's a personal decision of whether or not you want to take that risk of not currently having a passport and applying to the program and potentially being accepted without a passport in hand.
So Rose, I guess what you'd want to do is go ahead and start that process and expedite it. I know it's right around $200 or a little less than that, but it does take time, especially now.
And Stu has a good point with expediting. So expediting will cut the timeline down for getting your passport, probably down to 6 to 8 weeks. So it will cost a bit more to expedite, but worth it. And CSU is a passport acceptance facility, and we were shut down for fall because of COVID, but we're open again. So you can schedule to drop off your passport paperwork. It has to be dropped off in person at a passport acceptance facility. And the details of how to do that are on our website.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lauren, you had a question.
Yeah, so for the references for the application, you guys said that could come from any academic person in our lives.
Ideally, we like it to be an academic person at CSU. If you've been at CSU long enough, if you're not just a first semester transfer student, it makes it easier for us to follow up on the recommendation if it's taking your recommender some time to submit. So you should all know that in order for your application to be considered complete, you just have to have requested the recommendation. The recommender does not have to yet reply. We're not going to hold that against you if they don't reply, but I am going to try to get them to reply. So if they work at CSU, I have a little bit more cred to get them to be like, hey, we really want the student to be able to have a fully complete application. Will you please complete the recommendation? And the recommendation only takes 5 minutes. It's not like a recommendation for applying for admissions. So it's quick. You can let them know that if they have any hesitation, it's an online form and everything's done electronically.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you, Christina, for coming. Bye-bye. Any other questions?
Great. Well, thanks everyone for coming. Hopefully it answered a lot of your questions and piqued your interest.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey.
Okay.
Do you want to stop the recording? I have a few questions to ask you.